Hello, assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound and healthy. And I'm back. I've been back for at least 20 minutes, half an hour, I guess, after putting the votes. We were amongst the first people to put the votes, but as always, they wanted to create a problem. They decided to have a problem with my mother's ID card, and they refused to let her vote. They kept on insisting that it was a copy, even though we had other people who had the exact same kind of cards, because there was a time when NADRA issued cards where the lamination was literally jutting out in all corners. But did they listen? No. You know what? Let me just start from the beginning. We went there before 8. The polling stations were supposed to open at 8. We went there before 8. First of all, half of us actually ended up standing, half of the crowd, I'm talking about the crowd, half of the crowd ended up standing in the boys' school. And then we realized that, oh, something's wrong. And then my dad checked it out and he's like, oh, this is the boys' school. We have to go to the girls' school. That was the girls' school, was our polling station, which was literally like in the next street from the school, from the boys' school. So we ran there, and then we were still early because they had just started. In fact, we were literally the first people to vote. There was just one lady ahead of us, and then it was me and my mother. And then, then there was another lady who was with me at that queue in front of the boys' school. She also came running to this side because they found out it was actually this school that was the polling station. So, when we went there, first of all, nobody knew jack shit. Okay, let's be very honest here. Even the presiding officer, we didn't even know he was a presiding officer until the very end because he was so clueless. That man was so clueless. He didn't know anything. First, when he looked at the slip of paper, he's like, oh, no, you're not supposed to be in this room. You're supposed to be in the other room. I'm like, we were going to the other room. They sent us to this room. They said that all those who are from my area, we are to go to this. In fact, they particularly asked us, they stopped us outside in the veranda before we could enter any room, and they're like, wait, hold on, are you from this area? And they named our area, and we're like, yes, we are from that area. And they're like, okay, your room is there. Okay. And I'm like, we were specifically told that. Then he went out to ask. This is why nobody even knew he was a presiding officer. Even the other polling officers had no clue that he was a presiding officer. Imagine, because he had to go literally every 2 minutes to ask somebody about every little thing. Okay. So then when suddenly then he decided that he could not accept my mother's ID card. And the funny thing is, this was actually my mother's original ID card, like the original ID card which she thought that she had lost. It was that ID card, and they kept on saying that it was a copy, that it was not an original card, it was a copy, and it was a photocopy of that. I'm like, who the hell does a photocopy in plastic and laminate it? And then everybody, then the other lady, she had a similar card. Then there was another person who was actually from our area as well, and he also brought out his card because the when we took the issue to the office where the other officers were sitting, he was amongst them. And then he showed his own card. He's like, listen, all those cards that were issued in 2017, they were like this. They had lamination that jutted well out of the cards, and they look like this. Okay. And he's like, he even showed them every single thing. He's like, you see, look at this little logo, look at this little picture, look at this little um you know um I'm like, look at the QR code, if nothing else. And he's like, in any case, and he even read it out to them from the brochure. He's like, look at the directions written here, that as long as the picture and the information matches, it's fine. You can proceed with the voting. Why would you like to waste a vote? We're not here to argue. We're not here to fight. We need a resolution. He was very polite throughout. He was very gentle throughout. In fact, I lost my temper. My mother lost her temper at the end because they were so stupid and they were so obstinate and they wouldn't listen to us. And they didn't know anything. In fact, they didn't even label the boxes. Can you imagine? They did not even label the boxes, that this is for provincial assembly and this is for the national assembly. Nothing. you know and that's here's another thing. Talk about mismatched color coding. The provincial assembly's the ballot paper on which we were supposed to stamp our vote, that is green, and the national assembly's paper is white, okay? But the green boxes for National Assembly and the white boxes for Provincial Assembly, what the frack? At least label them. If you're going to do such, if you're going to actually contradict universal color coding, then at least label your boxes, you know? Thankfully, a lady stopped me in time. She was one of the, agents, and she stopped me in time, and she's like, no, no, no. The provincial one has to go in the white box, and the National Assembly one has to go in the green box. I'm like, dude, and as I said, nobody knew anything. The guy, first of all, he had a problem. He was like, we're not from this area. Then another 2 3 other women came while we were still arguing about so many other points, and they started yelling at him and saying that, what the hell is wrong with you? Why can't you get your information right? You're sending us to the other room, the other room is sending us here. And then another person, another agent came, or maybe he was another presiding officer, I don't know, but he came, and he was like, hello, can you please fix your information? Why do you keep confusing everybody else? These women are supposed to come here. All the women from these two areas, they have to come here, okay? Kindly fix your information and stop confusing them. And then he went away. And then this so-called presiding officer, he was so out of his wits end. I swear, he was so out of his wits. He was so much at his wits end that he literally was like running to and fro. And that is why nobody even knew he was a presiding officer. And when all the other senior officers even were like telling them that, listen, this woman's ID card is perfectly fine and it is acceptable. You can see her face. You can see the picture. You can see the information. Everything is correct. Just let her vote. And they were like, oh no, we can't, because the presiding officer. And then everybody was like, who the hell is the presiding officer? And we found out it was that confused idiot, that moron. He was the presiding officer. I mean, everybody was so untrained, okay? Nobody was trained. Nobody knew anything. In fact, the voters were telling them how to do their job in some cases. And, they were so out of it. They didn't know anything. Nobody knew anything. And in fact, we even had the police officer. We had 2 policemen over there, one in plain clothes and one that literally had a jumper with the words police on it. And, they were both also like, what is going on? Why aren't they letting you vote? And one of them literally ended up laughing because he's like, what the hell? What are they doing? What are they making such a big deal out of it? The other one is like, then we're like, it means you're deliberately trying to waste your votes, right? And the other officer in the plain clothes, he was like, it's exactly what you're thinking. Whatever it is that you're thinking, that's exactly what they're doing. Okay. And he was also so, he couldn't do anything because his job was just to maintain security and to make sure nothing's going wrong. And he was like, they are not accepting it because maybe this. And I'm like, listen, we need to take it up with NADRA then. Okay, they're the ones that issued this card. In those times, these are the kind of cards they issued. Everybody's showing you that they have same cards, exactly the same as my mother. So what is going on here? Anyway, it was such BS. And imagine on a day like this is a day when NADRA office has to be open. If nothing else, then their numbers have to be open, because there is a number on NADRA where you just text them the information and they send you a confirmation that yes, this card definitely does belong to this person and this card is, accepted. And imagine that NADRA was closed, so nobody could even call them. And obviously, the people at the elections, they banned us from taking our phones in, so nobody could even take their phones in. Only a few managed it, and those were, again, those who were one of the officers and all. And the internet is obviously off. The internet's been shut down. So nobody could even access the internet to, and see, that is what I'm saying. That shows that the government was in no mood to actually conduct free and fair elections, because anybody can see all over the world, whenever you have a polling day, if nothing else, there should be somebody on the computer who can immediately access NADRA and access your verification for your ID card in case of any such tiny problems. But they did not want that to happen. They literally did not want that. And they were hoping and looking for such tiny, tiny things in order to disclaim the votes and to discourage the votes and to dismiss them. And that is what they did with my mother. And we argued and argued. We went all the way to NADRA office. NADRA office was closed. Then came back for and the our neighbor who was also the the same good person who also showed his own card, and who was, I think he was, I don't know exactly in what capacity he was there, but he wasn't just there as a voter. No, he was there in some capacity. He wasn't a presiding officer, and he wasn't a polling agent. Maybe he was one of those representatives that help to make sure that voters are facilitated. I don't know, but he's also our neighbor, and they're also friends. As in, his wife and my mom are very good friends, and so he really helped a lot. And then he was even ready to argue with them even some more, because he was already very politely making his point, and they were just, in fact, many of them agreed with him. Many of them agreed with him, but the stupid presiding officer just, he became. I'm like, you know what? You are incompetent, and you're obstinate. You know, I'm like, or you're just incompetent and you're dishonest, or you're dishonest. It has to be one of the other. And there were some women over there. All the women were agreeing with us. Even some of the men came to explain to him that, for God's sake, this is this is fine. Her ID is fine. It's just an old ID card, and it's accepted because this is one of those ID cards that they brought out in a batch in 2017. Another woman even waved her ID card at him, showing that, look, I have the same thing. Okay, if it was a copy, you wouldn't see the chip in it. We all made the same arguments over and over again, but he was an idiot because he didn't have any knowledge, he didn't have any information, he didn't know anything. So he just decided to, like a typical Pakistani, the way Pakistani teachers even behave in government schools and colleges. If they don't know your answer, if you must have noticed that there are many times when in government colleges and universities and schools you have written a perfectly good answer, but because that answer does not correspond to the answer that they have in their notebooks, or in their exam prep books, or whatever it is that you call them. I've even forgotten the name of those books that we used to have. Those books which we used to have where you would have the answers and the questions. And that is what the teachers usually use even. And that is what many of the students who cram and wrote, they also used copies of those books. And so if the answer does not correspond to that, then they give you a big fat zero. They cancel out the whole answer. So that's exactly what this idiot was doing, because he didn't know the answer to it and everybody was telling him this was the answer. He decided just give it a zero, just refuse it, reject it. And he really, I mean, so then, as I said, when our neighbor was proceeding to argue some more, I'm like, just I'm also now beginning to doubt it. My dad is also beginning to doubt it, that maybe there the replacement card that we have, we should look for it again, because this was definitely the original card which my mother thought she had lost. And when she was issued a replacement, so that's what now we thought. Anyway, so basically we came home empty handed. We searched all over the house. Obviously we couldn't find another card. How could we? So, but I mean, they just, I was like, we'll just end up arguing and fighting and everything, and they will still not let you vote. And at the end, everybody's going to lose their temper. Even the gentleman over here is beginning, he will end up losing his temper. It's just not worth it. And anyway, as we all know, they've already rigged the elections, and in fact, from Karachi, there was already the news that they were trying to steal votes. They had actually stolen votes. And then, in Karachi, also people have been given ghost polling stations where it's raining in Karachi, it's flooded in Karachi. And then you make people in Karachi, go around in circles looking for the polling station. And then they themselves realize, as I said before, it's you're lucky if you finally realize that, oh my God, this polling station, which they have wrongly named, is actually this polling station. As I said, in our case, we already had an idea. So, otherwise, other people just got confused. So basically, as I said before, they've deliberately tried to ruin things for voters. They've deliberately tried to discourage voters. And as who cares that the United Nations Human Rights Commission and the Amnesty International and the United Nations itself, as the general organization, who cares that they actually warned our illegal government and our establishment again and again that they are watching the elections and that they should not disturb the voters, they should facilitate them, they should not rig the elections. Who cares, right? Because their master is America. And America considers itself even above the United Nations. So there you are. At the end of the day, the voter turnout is still great, let me tell you that. We were amongst the first, and immediately there was a whole queue that formed right, behind us, and the men's section and the women's section and everything. There was, and that was just when it had just begun at 8 a.m. So it's a good turnout. In fact, many people in many other areas had already come out at night. They were out since last night, you know. So keeping all of that in mind, as I said in my previous episode as well, do remember, if anybody tries to tell you anything otherwise, it's a lie, okay? If the result is not in favor of Imran Khan, it's a lie. If the result is going to be, at the end of the day, a hodgepodge of a coalition government, this is obviously because of the rigging, okay? This is not our votes. Our votes are 100% with PTI. The majority of the voters are with PTI. And people at the polling stations knew that. People in the police knew that. People in the government knew that. People in the election commission knew that. Everybody knows it. Everybody knew it, and everybody will know it anyway. Okay, nothing's changed here. Nobody's voted for Bilawal, okay? Nobody's voted for Maryam Nawaz. Remember that, right? It had come to this point that Bilawal and Maryam Nawaz were begging. They were literally begging PTI candidates to join them so that they could get votes, okay? So keep that in mind before you believe anything that the mainstream media is telling you. No party has gained momentum except for PTI. No party has gained any favor except for PTI. No party has gained any majority votes except for PTI. But that will not be the end result. Okay? You know it. I know it. We all know it. That is not going to be the result. They have already rigged the elections and they're going to form a coalition government, as we all know. But as I said, we're not that nice. Have you seen any government complete its tenure in this country? What makes you think they will? Yes, again, I know America needs only 1 year. 1 year is more than enough for America to wreak havoc. But 1 year is also more than enough for us to put them all in their graves. And we will do that. And this is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.